What is up? It's your boy Earl back at it again with another video for the Vape Professors. Today, we'll be discussing the difference between an RBA and an RDTA. There are so many pods out on the market that are rebuildable. But then again, there are two types of rebuildables, the RBA and the RDTA section. Today, we'll be going through the differences between an RBA and an RDTA. So let's dive down, get up close, and see what the differences are. So here you have your standard RBA and RDTA. So if you notice, the first major difference between the two is the size of the deck, right? RBAs are usually the size of an OCC with like a 10mm diameter. And then you have your RDTAs, which are like 18 to 22mm in size. So you can use a dual coil in this, and this I highly doubt that you can. In fact, I don't even recommend that you try using a dual coil in these. Right? Usually these come from bottom airflows, and the RDTAs, they have the top cap with a side airflow. I'll open those up later, show you guys what's up. The RDTAs usually take it from the bottom because you put the wicks in here. With your RBAs, you have your juice flow built in to the RBA, right? So the whole section goes into the tank, and the juice feeds through here, up through your wicks, and to your coil. One of the secrets to the RBA's flavor is when your airflow is coming from the bottom, it also has a domed top cap. Okay? The domed top cap helps you increase flavor. It gives you a nice compressed chamber that gives you a really nice output for flavor. So compression of the airflow, compression of the chamber, both of them give you good condensed flavor. And for the RDTAs, the secret of the RDTAs is more of coil placement and airflow dynamics. So this is heavily reliant on how you place your coils, how hot your coils can get, and the wattage control that you use. So you can see these don't have that much of doming on the inside. That's why they're heavily reliant on the airflow and your coil placement. So let me demonstrate what builds or how to build on an RDTA. So here, this is an RDTA build. So disregard the discoloration of the coils. This is my previous build. I just put it right back in as I just started using the wires, and I'm in the middle of testing, so bear with me. If you're looking at that, I've elevated the coils, and there's a very simple reason for that. Airflow. Okay? If I put the top cap on, let's just slide this on, right? I don't know if you guys can see, but these airflow holes are directed straight on the bottom of my coil. And if you're looking from the top, my coils are as close as possible to the edges of the airflow. This will give you the optimum airflow for an RDTA. All you need to do is drop the wicks in and around about there, right? And you'll have your optimum juice flow and airflow for an RDTA. I've heard complaints from people that have said, oh, they've promised good flavor, but it's not there. Here's the problem. It's because your build is too low on the deck. If your build is too low on the deck, the air will just go on the side and flow up. You're not hitting the optimum airflow. So you want your airflow as close as possible as to the bottom. So when your airflow hits here, it goes down, around, and up, maximizing the airflow around the coil and giving you the best possible flavor. You also want the airflow to be as close as possible to avoid it being dragged up in the vacuum when you're doing your puffs. So again, you want your airflow as close as possible to the side and the bottom of the coil, not the top, not far. Okay, you want them as close as possible to your airflow, and the airflow to be as close as possible to the bottom. So your builds should have long legs and should be elevated. And here is a standard build in an RBA. So as you can see, my build is very, very simple using a 26 gauge round wire. I kept it spaced for one simple reason. You cannot balance your coils unless you have like a 510 adapter for this. And then you have to do the whole remove this, put the 510 adapter on it, put it on your mod. fire it, balance out the coils and all that jazz. And then when you put it in, of course, because of the compressed chamber, and because these wires would be too close together when you compress them, it will be easier to burn out your RBA. So, to counteract that, always build space coils on your RBA. Always. Always spaced. It's not that hard to build, okay? RBAs are very small, very tight spaced because they are mainly used for flavor chasing or chasing flavors or whatever you want to call it. You can use them in MTLs or restrictive lung draws, but I would not bet on doing cloud chasing on these things. These are too small, too compressed, and too condensed for your flavor, right? So if you're rebuilding this, like a 4-loop single coil should do 5-loop single coil over under, right? Again, as close as possible to your airflow, which is at the bottom. So the coils can rest as low as possible, right? Let me see if I can get this even lower. There you go. As low as possible, as close as possible to your airflow. Cotton should be a bit loose, so these tiny juice flow controls will allow the cotton to saturate and you'll get optimum flavor from these coils. See? That's just the basic of it all. So that's how you optimize your flavor for your RBA sections. I've seen a lot of different kind of RBAs, and some of them are telling me that, okay, Sir Earl, there's no flavor coming out from RBA. Maybe it's because your coil is sitting too high. You should lower your RBA's build to as close as possible. See my build? It's as close as possible to my airflow. Maximizing it. It hits from the bottom, goes around the coil, and goes straight up. And then there are other factors that we can control. If your RBA doesn't have a rounded edge like this, or the rounded inside, or rounded dome, the vapor usually condenses in the corners, right? They usually condense in the corners of that. Luckily, this is rounded. So all the vapor goes straight and is directed up the airway to your 510 mouthpiece, right? If it's squared off, usually the vapor condenses in the sides and you lose around 20% of your flavor. So that factor we cannot control, but if we build it correctly, as close as possible to your airflow, right? Spaced coils so you don't burn it out immediately after you build it, then you will be able to optimize even the worst RBAs like, okay, I'm not going to mention brands, but you know those RBAs that are flat on top, right? If you're getting shorts, that just means that possibly your leads are still too long and you need to clip them as close as possible to the posts. So when you put on your top cap, it doesn't short out. That's about it. So let's go back up top. And we back up top. So those are the two main differences between an RBA and an RDTA. Now, I'm not saying that one is better than the other or the other is better than one, but there are differences between the two. Now it's up to you as a vapor to decide which one of the two best suits your style. An RBA, again, for me, in my opinion, is better for those who are chasing for flavor and MTLs. For those that want big clouds and flavor, possibly hot, dense vapors, I would suggest that you go with an RDTA, but that's just me. If you have any other opinions on this subject, please feel free to leave down in the comment section which is your preferred rebuildable style. That being said, support your local shops, support your local suppliers, because without them, where are you going to get your stuff, right? Peace.